All right, everybody. Eric Smith, Race Review Online, racereviewonline.net. We're back. Week off. IndyCar. They were off last week. Raced at Road America 2 weeks ago. Here we are back with the Honda Indy 200 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I'll be there this weekend. Obviously, this isn't a live picture. That's from last year. We'll be traveling over there this weekend to cover the race for Race Review Online, racereviewonline.net, here with Prime Sports Network. Be sure to tune in to our show. Subscribe to the channel. Tune into our show from earlier the week. We previewed NASCAR in Chicago on a straight course. But today's show will be focusing primarily on IndyCar. Since they're back, we're nearing the midway stretch of the season. This will be kind of crossing over since there's an odd number of races, 17 races in the season. We're 8 races in. This will be the 9th race, so they always kind of use this as we're crossing over into the second half of the year. With that said, championship is one thing we're looking at, and in both series got Indy Next also, which is Indy Lights, formerly Indy Lights, which to anybody that might be familiar with NASCAR, Indy Next is comparable to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the way they are to the Cup Series. So the Indy Next is a ladder, next step down on the ladder compared to IndyCar. They got a driver named Nolan Siegel leading their points. He's won 2 straight races. He just graduated high school last month. He's going for the hat trick this week in Mid-Ohio. So is Alex Palou on the NTT IndyCar Series side. Both drivers lead their respective points. Both drivers are kind of pulling away. So I'm going to watch if both drivers can pull a hat trick. Nolan Siegel, he's made 6 USF 2000 starts in Mid-Ohio. Just okay success, never won. 2 Indy Pro 2000 Series races, same thing, 3rd and 7th in those races. He's got some good guys chasing him, trying to close that gap. Same with Palou. Talked to him this week. He feels good. He feels real confident. What's scary to the field is he's made mention that he's just getting better. He's more and more comfortable. He won the championship in 2021. He said they were still kind of guessing. That was his first year with Ganassi. They're still learning things. Now he knows what he wants in the car. And the Spaniard is on a streak to where this is where he started these last 4 races. 3rd, 1st, 1st, 3rd. He's finished 1st, 4th, 1st, 1st. He's led 172 of 400 laps in the process. He went from 9 points down entering the month of May to 74 points up entering this weekend. That's more than a race pace. So he's, no matter what happens on Sunday, Alex Palou is leaving Mid-Ohio with the points lead. The thing is can anybody touch him, or does he extend that lead? He finished 3rd, 2nd his last 2 years there. On natural road courses like this one is behind me, you see, he's won 6 of his 7 career races there. So can anybody stop him? I mean, this lead could be blossoming to 80, 90, dare I say 100 points leaving Mid-Ohio. So I'm watching the hat tricks and the points leads. That's the first thing I'm watching this weekend. Granted, I should have said just a little bit ago, this is the 5 things that I'm watching this weekend. That would be number 1 because it kind of rolls in to not only the season, but this weekend in general. The next thing is Penske and Ganassi. We're going to touch mostly on this because these are the 2 teams that are just dominating the season. They've won 7 of the 8 races. They won the last 10 straight championships in this series. They've gone 1-2, top 2 finishers the last 3 races on the year at that. So they've been untouchable. Palou drives for Ganassi. It's kind of like they flipped the script between Penske and Ganassi. Ganassi dominated last year. Penske dominated last year, won the championship. Ganassi won the Indy 500, kind of kept them at bay. But overall, as Penske, they won this race. This year, it's kind of flipped. Ganassi's dominated the season. Penske won the Indy 500. But you got Alex Palou, and he's a hard one to look over if I just said his stats. So you got that going for you. But however, I took an overall view over this thing. Since 2020, that's the year this aero screen was adopted because a lot's changed. Setup-wise, strategy, everything since this aero screen was introduced. So if you go back to 2020, Penske and Ganassi have each won 9 times on these types of tracks. That's 18 of 24 wins are just between those 2 teams. Andretti Autosports next, they've won 3 times, or they've won 3rd most 4 times in the span. McLaren, they won last year at Barber with Pato Ward. Ed Carpenter Racing won the Indy Road Course in 2021. That's it. That's the list. That's the only teams that have won on natural road courses with this aero screen. On podiums, Penske's got 22, Ganassi's got 20, Andretti's got 17. That's 59 to 72 podium chances, 81.9% with those 3 organizations. McLaren's got 5, Coyne's got 4, ECR's got 3, Rahaal's got 2, and Shank's got 1. That's it. But if you want to look at 7 of the last 8 Mid-Ohio races last year, so we'll go over those. Last year, Penske, Ganassi on the podium. 2021, Penske, Ganassi. 2020, doubleheader weekend. Andretti, Penske, Andretti. 2019, and this is pre-aero screen, Ganassi, Andretti. You get the picture. We don't have to go over all of them, but over the last 24 podiums, Penske's got 11 Mid-Ohio podiums. That's 45.8%. Ganassi's got 4, but 2 of them come the last 2 years. This season, Penske and Ganassi have won, obviously, the 3 natural road course races. They've swept the podium here the last 2 years, and they've won this race 6 of the last 8 years overall. So that's why I kind of bring this point up, is this could be shaping up to be a Penske versus Ganassi battle, and everybody else is playing not just from probably 4th or 5th on back. It may be 6th on back. I can envision a scenario where Penske and Ganassi sweeps the entire top 5 this weekend. I just talked about Palou. He's pretty much a shoo-in for a podium. If the guy doesn't make mistakes, he's unflappable. We know what he's done on light tracks this season. But does anybody else from his teammates join him? This is where I feel like the door might be opened up more for Penske. Ganassi has won 4 of the 8 races this year. So they've won half. They've won 3 of the last 4 at that. However, they've won once of their last 9 tries at Mid-Ohio. Penske's the one that's been doing most of the workload, winning the races. They won 1-2 in 2019 with Dixon and Rosenquist, and that's the only time they've won of their last 9 Mid-Ohio tries. So, can they improve? They used to be, at one point, the best team here. They won 7 wins in an 8-year span. But it's that 1 for 9 cents that I think opens the door for Penske to maybe close this gap a little bit with Alex Palou. You got Joseph Newgarden's coming off a runner-up in Road America. He won this race in 2021. Scott McLaughlin won this race last year. He's really good on tracks like this. So Will Power, we know what he can do. He spun on the opening lap of this race last year and rebounded all the way up to finish 3rd. He was on the podium. So Penske's the one that I think I'm watching the most out of this because we know what Ganassi can do. We know what they've done this season, but I feel like Ganassi has this door open a little bit for Penske to come in. So, granted, here I am again talking Penske and Ganassi. So, those are the main 2 things, main 2 teams that I'm going to be watching. However, to lead to my next point, who can beat them? We can't just – it's IndyCar. I know it doesn't show there's been a lot of parity with between these 2. But there has been parity. The door still is open. So who could jump in with the Penske and Ganassi boys this weekend? Andretti Autosport should come to mind. The problem is they self-destructed here last year. If you remember, right, this is when all 4 teammates were pissed off at each other. None of them wanted to talk. Grosjean came out and did speak, but he blamed all of his teammates. So we'll see what they can do. Road America, look, Colton Herta, kind of his strategist gave this race away from him. And that's what Palou kind of mentioned this week when I talked to him is that, look, I'm not doing anything differently now than I did earlier in the year. It's just, I'm just taking what the field's given me. And you look at Colton Herta had this race won in Road America just 2 weeks ago. He led 33 of 55 laps. He had the lead come into the final pit stop. They called him down 1 lap too early. And the reason being, that's a 4-mile track. Everybody else pit a lap later. That extra 4 miles cost Herta to be in fuel-saving mode where everybody else was charging. And he had the lead back on lap 47 when it cycled to him. However, he only had on for 2 more laps. Palou, running qualifying laps, they knew they could make it till the end easily. Just by that 1 lap, pitting 1 lap later, he passed him on lap 48. Herta dropped to 5th. And where I'm curious about is if Andretti's guys, the same thing happened last year here. Herta cycled to the lead. Kyle Kirkwood, his teammate now, but last year was a Foyt, he got off track. IndyCar held the caution and let the leaders pit if they wanted to jump down pit road before they throw the caution. Herta never was called down pit road. Everybody else pit. He was stuck. He still had to pit again, cost him the race. Road America cost him the race. And this is what Michael Andretti said back at St. Pete right before the season started. Mind you, this is after they dominated qualifying. Here's what he said, and I quote, "I mean, we did have many races where we had fast cars last year, but we tended to do something wrong, shoot ourselves in the foot one way or the other. That's another thing we've really studied and worked on. Hopefully our pit stops will be better and strategies will be better. We're really working on trying to be a lot more detail-oriented, things like that. I hope it pays off. It hasn't this year. They're still shooting themselves in the foot between crashes, bad pit calls. So here we go again. Can they, on the second half of this season, make up for all that? They've got a good chance. Championship's probably out of reach, but this track we know they've been good on. So can they be good? Can they jump in with the Penskes and Ganassis is the question. Grosjean, we talked about Herta. Grosjean would be the next guy you would think. However, he's had a free fall since the month of May. To start the year, he had 2 poles, third place. He had 2 poles, 2 runner-ups, and was set 5th in points, 15 out going into the month of May. But since he's qualified 18th, 19th, 3rd, 19th, he's finished 11th, 30th, 24th, and 25th. That's not going to get it done, folks. And that's why I have a feeling he's not had that contract extension presented to him yet, because I know talking to him back in April, he thought the contract was coming in May. I talked to him in May. Him and Andretti both thought that things were going to come by the end of the month. And here we are going into July and nothing's been signed. So this free fall and the attitudes around this bunch, it's hard to stop a slide. Road America again, or not Road America, Mid-Ohio again. We talked just last year of how much animosity and turmoil is going on with this team because of this race. They've got the speed, they've got the cars, but can they get out of their own way? These are Grosjean's best tracks. 3 of his 5 runner-up finishes have come on tracks like this, so we'll see what he can do. We know what Herta can do. And the last guy, though, to mention with the Andretti camp is Kyle Kirkland. He was involved in a first-lap crash the last 2 races, and he's rebounded to get near the top 10 in both. If he can stay out of trouble on that opening lap, I'm telling you, watch out. He qualified 9th with a Foyt car here last year. And in the road to Indy, he won all 3 times in USF competition. He won both times in Indy Pro 2000. He won 3 of his 4 Indy Light starts in 2021. It was 5th place, but that was because he had the championship locked in. That's 8 wins and 9 Mid-Ohio starts in the road to Indy. He was fast last year. He's got a car that Rossi's was dominant in. He won 2018 there. He's in that car now. So I'm telling you, Kyle Kirk was probably the biggest sleeper to watch in this field. And he's one that could probably stick it to these Penske's and Ganassis this weekend, as long as he doesn't get punted on the first lap. That's the key. McLaren's the other team to watch. 2 of their 3 cars on the Indy Road Course podium. They're in the podium with Road America. Pato Ward was on the pole there last year. Felix Rosenqvist was a close second in 2019. He won in 2020 at Road America. Alexander Rossi, 6 top 6 finishes his last 7 tries on that track, 3 podiums in his last 6. In qualifying, he's made the Fast 6 in 4 of his last 7. He's finished the race 8th, 3rd, he's got 3 top 10s on natural road courses this season, including 3rd at the Indy Road Course. He's really good at this track. They're out for redemption. All the quotes I've got for this week from the McLaren camp is this is a redemption weekend for them for how last year ended. They had 2 cars starting the top 4, but they had 2 cars finish in the bottom 4, and that's because mechanical gremlins took him out of the race early. You got Andretti, who I just talked about, but they self-destruct. McLaren had speed last year. They've been right there with Andretti as far as speed this year again. They just haven't self-destructed as much. So if Ganassi has that door open and Penske can't close the deal, don't sleep on that McLaren bunch that come through and steal the show on Sunday too. So that's why it's intriguing to watch with these inter-team battles. You got Penske versus Ganassi, but you got Andretti versus McLaren for next. And if any of those doors open, those are the 4 teams you're probably going to look at. So a couple sleepers I want to throw in there. Rinus VeeKay, a pair of top 11 results in 2020. Although he was 16th in 2021, he rebounded to finish 4th a year ago. He was strong on the road to Indy, 3rd and 2nd, respectively, in USF 2000. He swept the weekend a year later in Indy Pro 2000. He scored a pair of 3rd-place finishes in Indy Lights. While he's not made the Fast 6 in Mid-Ohio, he has qualified 9th, 11th, and 11th. So 11th seems like the spot where he's going to qualify this weekend. He could still win if pitch strategy go his way. And Ray Hall. That's the last team that you're going to look as far as the sleeper team. Graham Rahal has home track, 9 top 10 finishes, his last 10 starts, including 7 of them being in the top 6. He scored a pair of 4th-place results in September 2020 on this track with 6th and 12th, respectively, the last 2 Julys. Christian Lundgaard, teammate, is fast 6th, finished there in Barber. 7th, qualified 7th, finished 7th in last time out in Road America. He was on the pole at Indy, finished 4th. It seems like Jack Harvey, I know he's having a dismal year. He had a dismal year last year, but we know what his teammates can do. So I'm curious if they can get that thing turned around. So Ray Hall Group was good at Indy, and I'm curious if they can they're decent in Road America. This is their home track. What can they do this weekend? So that's the team battles I'm kind of watching. A few more points, kind of lesser known points to watch. Scott Dixon. He's trying to get his 7th IndyCar championship, which would tie AJ Foyt for most ever. If he's going to do so, though, it starts this weekend. He's 98 points out, tied for 4th. He can do it. He can close that gap. It's Scott Dixon we're talking about. And you got to look at why this starts this weekend. He's won an astounding 6 times at this racetrack. He's got 16 top 10 finishes his last 17 tries there. So we know what he can do. 6 wins. Can he pick up the 7th to try to get to his 7th championship? After that, it's the Toronto. Dixon's won 4 times, including just last year at Toronto. And he's got a streak there of 3 consecutive top 2 finishes. Then it's the Iowa. It's a doubleheader. He's over 17. He's never won there. But he has 5 straight top 5 finishes, including a pair of runner-ups at that. So that's a good streak coming up for him in the month of July. Then it's Nashville. He's finished 2nd and 1st there, respectively, including that win last year. That's going to get you to the final month of the season or stretch where you got Indy Road Course, Gateway, Portland, Laguna Seca. That's why it all starts here this weekend at Mid-Ohio for him. He can't keep losing points to his teammate. I told you what his teammate can do. Alex Blow's got 3 wins in 4 races, 6 straight top 5s. Dixon can't get top 5s anymore. Dixon's got to win. So let's see what he can do this weekend. Sophomore drivers, that's the final point to watch. I talked on Kirkwood. He's a sophomore. I talked about Lundgaard. He's a sophomore. David Malukas qualified 8th last year. Callum Milot qualified 10th. This seems to be a track that suits these younger drivers well. Can they make some noise in a crowded room of the big heavyweight drivers? So I'm curious what those guys can do. That's the final point, guys. That's the top 5 things I'm watching. One thing that is going to be worth mentioning is I'm curious what these ratings are going to look like. Because this is the 2nd straight year, as I've mentioned, that we're on the 4th of July weekend in Mid-Ohio. How much longer will IndyCar stay on this weekend? Because you got to think, a lot of times IndyCar is still kind of in that niche sport. They're not NASCAR, they're not NBA, they're not MLB, they're not any of that. It's hard to get ratings on weekends like this. Last year, this was a tough slot for them. They didn't get a big rating. They got 0.57 rating, 643,000 viewers for this race weekend. NASCAR, by comparison, they didn't do much better. They got 1.93 million viewers at Road America. Here's the difference, though. NASCAR was on USA. IndyCar, because of that rating, got bumped from NBC, which is a prime network, which last year wasn't good, but usually they're averaging around 1 million viewers. Now they're on USA. USA barely even got IndyCar to 400,000 viewers for Belle Isle last year. So if they got 643,000 viewers on NBC network TV for this race last year, what's it going to be on USA this year? Where NASCAR is a bunch of attention surrounding them at Chicago. It's a street course race. They're on network NBC this weekend, not till 5:30. It would have made a lot more sense to have IndyCar as a lead into that, but it's not. They're on USA. So I'm curious what that rating looks like. And if it's – because we know the crowd's going to show up. Mid-Ohio's got good crowds. They've had the last few years. It's the rating that pays the bills. And if the rating's only in the 300,000 to 400,000 range, I don't know what you do. Do you try something different? Because the IndyCar race got over 1 million viewers at Mid-Ohio when it was run on the 4th of July a few years ago. It's just when it's not run on the 4th of July. Do you make it special? Do you run this race on the 4th of July no matter what date it falls? Or do you punt on this weekend altogether? So that's one under the radar thing that I'm kind of looking at what the rating looks like. I know the crowd's going to be good. It's the rating's going to dictate. I think this race date next year, is it on this race weekend? And does IndyCar even race on this race weekend next year? So that's one thing I'll be watching kind of under the radar. But This weekend again, the Honda Indy 200 Middle Ohio Sports Car Course, 1:30 Eastern on USA. This is Eric Smith, Race Review Online, racereviewonline.net. Check out a bunch of preview articles already up there. Prime Sports Network, make sure you like the channel, subscribe. Hope you enjoy these videos. Hope they help you out. But this will be this weekend. IndyCar's got a off weekend next weekend, and they're back at Toronto 2 weeks after that. So we'll talk to you then.